Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. I have something new. Well, not new, but new to me, and what I think is very cool to share with you today. This is the ADV Badlands. This is a custom version. This belonged to a friend of mine, and very recently we did some knife trading, and now it's, mine. And I'm really happy about that. It's different, it's different even than the other ADV knives. Let's move it up there. The first one I ever got was this. This is the Pathfinder, right? You can see the similar DNA, but they are very different knives. The next one I picked up was one that he had made by Reich. This is the Hybrid Ronin. And then the most recent one I picked up, which isn't that recent now, is the Tack Butcher here. These are great knives. Monsters, just big and beautiful. Now, all of these three, are S35VN. But this one is D2. And I think that's one of the reasons I didn't pick it up previously. You guys know, I'm a little burned out on D2, but you know what? That's a little foolish on my part, and here's why. A lot of custom makers used D2, particularly, in the last few years. And D2 holds a beautiful edge, particularly when it's heat treated right. And I have never heard anything negative about Andre de Villiers, which is ADV, about his heat treat. This one in particular is so interesting that I just had to pick it up. Now, as you can see, it says ADV Badlands 2019 number 61. And that's because that's how many of these he put together that year. The guy who owned this before me actually had a lot to do, with the way that it looks. He chose the carbon fiber. He chose the colors. He chose the faux hamon on the blade. And I just love this thing. Let's take a look at some of the more intricate features. First, there's the pivots, right? They're just gorgeous, right? Multifaceted, many pieces. They've got a piece of titanium wrapped around them that's been anodized out purple blue. There is, of course, this carbon fiber inlay on this side of the scale, and actually at the top up here as well. The pocket clip rests on metal, but there's carbon fiber here. The back spacer is titanium, carbon fiber, and then it finishes out in titanium. It is ridiculously comfortable and just funky. I love it. I love the giant fuller in the blade, this clip point with this great swedge, right? This thing is a monster. And I love it. I really do. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite knives. This is because it's the Pathfinder. These knives are very similar because this is what ADV does, but the differences are striking. I love this thing. I wanted to point out, so this one is flat slabbed, right? The titanium is even all the way down. On the Pathfinder here, there's a little bit of a swell right here at the middle, and it fills your hand so well. I have told the people that I've told about this thing, and the ones I've had a chance to show it to, I just smile and say, this is the most expensive piece of D2 I will ever own. Now, I traded for this. I have a fairly deep and wide knife collection, and so I moved some stuff into the hands of the guy who owned it, and he moved this into my hand, and everyone was happy. I could not have afforded this knife if I'd had to buy it new. These are between $480 and about $550, depending on how custom you get them. Yeah, all of the ADVs are not inexpensive, but even this I think was $380. But that's okay. That's the thing about being a collector. Now, here's the fun part. Most of these have happened for me in trade. I think I paid some money out, and it was some knives and some money for this one. And this one I bought outright, but I got a screaming deal on it. It's just the way it goes sometimes. Now, I know in the knife community, a lot of people, they're really into, they collect Chris Reeve, or they collect this, or they collect that. For my high-end stuff, ADV is just, he makes knives that I just really like. Look at this. It's absolutely spectacular. Now, it is a monster, even though you've seen it up against the other ADVs. Let's do our standard size comparison, of course. Here it is against the Mini Presidio, which is tiny by comparison. And excuse my arm, here it is against the full-size Presidio, which again is dwarfed. You know, so much in length, but just overall, it's dwarfed by the size of the Badlands here. One of Andre's sort of things is there's a roller bearing on the end of the pocket clips, which is very nice. This is not deep carry by any stretch of the imagination. Let me grab an envelope here. Yeah, not deep carry. And the interesting thing is, it's the ADV knives are the only place I don't care about this. I really don't. It's just the way he designs, and I'm not going to argue with it. They're just fantastic. The action on this knife is superb. There's just no question. And you can Spidey flick it, which is really, really nice. So it's got a couple of deployment options. Now this one is used. The guy who had it made for him actually used and carried it on a regular basis. And so the whatever the I'm guessing this is Cerakote that they did the faux homon with has got some scratches and some marks in it. But you know what? What that means to me is that I get to carry it without fretting. Like, this is an expensive knife, but it's an expensive knife that's been used, which means I get to put it in my pocket and not worry about it. And that makes me very, very happy. Let's get some specs out of the way. All right. You get 1, 2, 3 3/4 of cutting, right? 1, 2, 3 3/4 of cutting on 4 inches of D2 steel. The grip area from behind the tab here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 3 9/10, right? But to the back, we're out here to 4.5 inches, which is just a ton of knife. Overall, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a tiny bit. Yeah, this is not a knife for small pockets. Man, look at it. I didn't think I was going to love it this much. In fact, when he brought it over, I was like, nah, we're not going to trade for that. We'll do something else. I mean, it's got this, I don't even know, man. It's just, but I kept picking it up. I kept picking it up. I kept flipping it, and I kept looking at it, and I realized that, yeah, whatever my buddy was going to want within reason was going to be reasonable. And it was. Now I'm going to take this thing apart. Because this has been a regular everyday carry for the guy that I got it from. I'm going to take it apart and clean it, oil it, tune it, call it my own. But I haven't gotten there yet. I've only had it for, I don't know, a couple of days at this point. But I really wanted to share it with you guys because it's been a really long time since I got something that was just wonderfully ridiculous. One of the things about running a channel that people that don't really know is that you get really focused on the content. I'm a knife collector. I started this because I have a knife collection, not because I wanted to get knives that I thought would get me views or get me followers or any of that stuff. And this is just one of those knives. This is just that crazy monster, funky kind of knife that would have, well, it's why I got into collecting, honestly. And I just love it to pieces. I really do. The close profile on this thing is pretty big, including these plates, the flipper and the additional flipper, which gives you kind of a guard, right? So let's go ahead and find out what we're talking about. I think it's a monster. So we're actually going to line up on the outside here. We'll do it this way. So it's over 1.5 inches this way, but with these flippers, it's 2.25 inches. quarter. So if this is in your pocket, if you're me, you can still carry other things. But if you're not me, you're likely just going to have this in your pocket. And I'm okay with that. I really am. I love the little show of wear on the clip and around the corners. I just love a knife with character, and this thing has all of it. Let's get the calipers out, see what we're dealing with. All right. At the thickest spot back here, this is 5 millimeters of D2. There we go. You guys can see that. It is just an absolute monster. Yeah. The grind brings it down just a little bit towards the front, but not much. Now, it's not a razor blade because of this flat with the fuller ground into it. It's a relatively short drop. So it's still a monster cutter. Very sharp still, even though he's been using it for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, this is not a paper slicing, ribbon making machine. This is a hard cutter. And I really like it. Let's go ahead and take a look at how thick the handle is. Now up here at the top, we are 13.99 millimeters, which is, yeah, just a little over a ½ inch. There you go. But back here at the thickest spot, we pick up almost 1/10 of an inch because of that swell. And that's why it seats in the hand just wonderfully. If your hands are as big as mine. If not, maybe this isn't a knife for you, but that's okay. One of my favorite things about, for instance, the Pathfinder here is that they make a mini. So there are options for people that have smaller hands, which I think is just fantastic. Let's weigh it. I mean, it's clearly going to be an ultra lightweight knife, right? No. 8.1 ounces. You know what, though? For all this titanium, 5 millimeters of D2 ground down into just a gorgeous and funky blade. The guard options up here, yeah, that's no surprise, right? So again, if you're a business pants kind of guy, this is probably not going to be your EDC. But for me and the jeans that I wear, yeah, this is going to go a lot of places with me. I don't know. I love stuff like this. You know, there's a reason I love the XM24 and the 4Max and all those big, giant, crazy knives. It's not that they're any more useful than, say, the Mini Presidio here. Not really. I mean, for day-to-day carry, something like this is going to do everything you want it to. And this is a marvelous tool. But something like this elevates that tool up into a little more of an art form. And I love that about it. So, despite my many sort of quiet tirades about enough D2 in the world, here I am with a gorgeous hand put together, you know, hand ground, hand homoned, giant slab of D2 on one of the most beautiful handles I've ever seen, and I'm completely happy with it. Anyway, that's what I've added to the collection. I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at the ADV Badlands. I know I have enjoyed having it, and I'm going to continue to enjoy having it. I hope you guys are having a great week. Please subscribe. I'd love to have you here on a regular basis. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.